Hey, my friends, welcome back behind the walls with your girl, Anna B. Thanks for joining me. If you're new here, welcome. Hope you like the content. If so, ensure you hit that subscribe button and you have those notifications on so that you don't miss any upcoming videos from your favorite Southern girl that's into crime, Anna B. Women serving life in Kentucky. In March 2000, Shiovanda cried uncontrollably at the funeral of her three daughters. Those tears returned here at her arraignment when she was indicted for their murders. Shiovanda faced 4 counts of murder, 3 counts of first-degree wanton endangerment, and 1 count of first-degree arson. She was arrested and held on a $500,000 bond, cash bond. A Jefferson County grand jury charged the 21-year-old with the murder of her 2-week-old daughter as well, Devonda Jones, who had died the previous year on October 10th. Initially, the baby's death had been attributed to sudden infant death syndrome. This indictment came 3 months after her 3 other daughters, Dashae Jones, Denisha Jones, and Jaquanda Smith, were found unresponsive in Shiovanda's apartment. This was the night of March 26, 2000. The children died within minutes of each other at the Children's Hospital, with their deaths ruled as asphyxia due to suffocation, the matter being a homicide. The charges of arson and wanton endangerment were linked to a fire that broke out in the girls' bedroom on March 21st, just days before they died. The indictment claimed Shiovanda had set the fire. All 3 girls were treated for smoke inhalation and released from the hospital. In interviews after their deaths, Shiovanda said the children had been sleeping in her bed the night they died, explaining that a faulty electrical outlet had caused a small fire in their bedroom earlier. She recalled checking on them around 10 p.m. after asking a friend to do so. Her friend had reported everything was fine, but when Shiovanda returned moments later to adjust the air conditioner, she found her 2-year-old's lips blue, with Dashae and Jaquanda lying motionless on their stomachs. The girls, they were pronounced dead shortly after 11 p.m. Neighbors remembered their children fondly as playful, happy kids who had been outside playing kickball and eating ice cream just the day before their deaths. One neighbor recounted seeing them laughing and enjoying themselves. Dwayne Jones, he was the father of Devonda, Denisha, and Dashae. He had lived with Shiovanda until shortly after Devonda's death in October. Neighbors noted that after moving out, he rarely visited, but they did remember him playing kickball and wrestling with the children in the yard. On June 20th, 2001, Shiovanda entered an Alford plea, in which she did not admit guilt, but acknowledged that there was enough evidence to convict her. In taking this plea, Shiovanda avoided the possibility of a death sentence and was immediately sentenced by Jefferson Circuit Judge Stephen Ryan. There are no appeals from this, and she will never have the opportunity to be around children again, said Carol Cobb, the Assistant Commonwealth's attorney who prosecuted the case. So I wrote Shiovanda. I reached out in hopes that she would be willing to answer some questions for us and share her experiences, where she was at that time, and how she found herself in prison, pleading guilty to the murder of the children that she brought into this world. Here's her response. She writes, "This is Shiovanda, and of course I got your message. Before I answer your questions, I was wondering what all this is about. Not only do I have a life sentence, but it's without parole. I've been here 24 years with no family. I've lost my kids, father, mother, and grandparents, and I struggle, hurt, and deal with drama about my case in time. So feel free to write me and let me know what you need to know about my pain. Thank you, Shiovanda. And I did just that. I replied back to her, reiterating my goal and what I was looking to accomplish. And she responded, "Hi, this is Shiovanda, and this is my pain, story, and struggle. I grew up having to take care of my brother and sister because my mom and dad was getting high. I grew up living with my grandparents, and I was running away and got pregnant. I was 15 years old. I had to drop out of school at 16 years old to take care of my daughter. Fast forward, I met my other kid's father. I went on to have 3 more kids by him at the age of 21. In October 10th, I had a daughter named Shiovanda, who died of SIDS at 2 weeks old. I took her to the hospital the day before for temperature and respiratory infection. She died the next day. They did an autopsy and said she died of SIDS. They closed the case. 5 months after that, I tried to kill me and my other kids. This was March 21st. I set a shirt on fire and we fell asleep, and one of the neighbors called the ambulance and we went to the hospital and everyone was okay. They said it was a child playing with matches, but I knew that was a lie. Then they closed the case. On March 26th, I suffocated my 3 daughters. Jaquanda was 4 years old. Danisha was 2 years old. And Dashay was 18 months old. I was out 3 months before I got locked up. When I got locked up, they charged me with all the cases they closed. With the baby that died of SIDS, the smoke I started, they opened that case and charged me with arson when they had no fire to put out, and 3 wanton endangerment for the kids being in the room. I took an alpha plea and I got 4 life sentences without parole, 50 years at 85%, and 3 counts of wanton endangerment at 20%, which is bullshit because they closed those cases. I did not kill my baby that died of SIDS. If I did, I would admit to it like I admitted to the last 3, period. My kid's father hurt me a lot, and I try to hurt him by hurting my kids. I didn't realize after my kids was gone that I would die and give my life for them. Now here I am in prison, and I get my case and time thrown up every time somebody get mad, including people that's supposed to be my friends. I thought I was strong to handle this shit, but I'm not, and I don't think I ever will be. I see a therapist every week. I've cut myself up all over my legs, arms, and neck, but I haven't done that in years. I have tried to work on my case, but quit because I feel like I deserve to be here. I was a good mom, and I just can't cope with them being gone. I have accomplished a lot since I've been here. I got my GED. I completed 2 MRT, grief care. I'm about to graduate anger management in 2 weeks. And then I go straight to challenges, a 6-month mental health program. Also, I forgot to mention that I never had any KCPC evaluation at all. I was treated unfairly and I couldn't do nothing about it because I had 2 public defenders. Since I've been here, I've lost my dad in 2009, my granny in 2010, my pawpaw in 2012, and my mom in 2017. My other family don't stay in touch with me. Well, sorry I took up all your time. I'll tell you more next time. Have a good day, Shiovanda. Wow. I was left speechless after reading that letter. This is exactly what I wanted to do and accomplish, is incorporate the words of the women that stand accused and convicted. This is a very sad case. 4 little girls are no longer living. Their mother suffocated them. How do you feel about the 2-week-old baby? Shiovanda maintains her innocence and says that if she had have done it, she would admit it to it like she did the other 3. And then wanting to hurt your baby father, so you killed your children. I got no results from any domestic violence accusations or anything of that knowledge. As mentioned, the neighbors all recounted the father being present, playing kickball in the yard with the children. The children are happy children. So this is a very sad case. I am greatly interested in your feedback, your opinions. Does this just kind of like answer any questions that loomed over your head as you heard the details of the case? Or do you have any other questions that you would ask Shiovanda? Now it's time we give a moment of silence for Devonda Jones, 2 weeks old, Dashae Jones, 17 months old, Denisha Jones, 2 years old, and Jaquanda Smith, 5 years old. Sweet, innocent, precious young girls, all taken from this world way too soon. Let's give a moment of silence. So Lori, she found herself going from a stay-at-home parent to a convicted murderer working in the prison's laundry room, a tiresome job, she describes. 2017, she was in a relationship with a man named Chris Lowe. On the evening of July 23rd that year, Lowe's uncle Charles noticed 2 women. One was on top of the other, and they both were laying in the road. As Charles stopped his car, he saw one of the women, who he believed to be Lori, get off of the other woman and walk towards Chris's house through the yard. The other woman, who was later identified as Michelle Marlo, she remained lying in the road. Upon further examination, Charles told his nephew that Michelle was not looking too good and said that somebody needed to call 911. Chris responded that Michelle was just asleep, and with his uncle's help, they moved her body from the road into the yard. Charles went home and he called 911. That's when a Kentucky State Police lieutenant responded to the call. He immediately noticed blood in the road, the driveway, and the yard, which was leading to Chris's house. He followed that blood trail to the rear of the home and entered. The blood trail continued inside the home through the kitchen towards a hallway bathroom. He looked inside the bathroom and observed more blood and a broken walking stick. The officer continued his sweep of the home until he came upon the master bedroom. That's where he found Chris naked, laying on the bed and unconscious with what appeared to be blood on him. The officer yelled, trying to get Chris's attention from the doorway, but he didn't respond. He walked further into the master bedroom, at which point he noticed 2 women. First, he looked behind him in an adjacent room and saw Michelle, who appeared to be dead. Next, he saw Lori draped across the toilet in the master bathroom. She appeared to be unconscious, and 2 covered in blood. Chris, he eventually woke up, got dressed, and complied with the officer's orders. Michelle had sustained severe head wounds. She lacked a pulse and was not breathing. Lori was examined next, but she became aggressive upon waking up and had to be secured. She complained of pain in her mouth and vaginal area and was transported to the hospital. More authorities arrived. They began securing the home, which was now a crime scene. When a woman named Linda Carpenter, she drove up to Chris's house. She told an officer that her son, Claude Dean, asked her to come to Chris's home to pick up his girlfriend, Michelle Marlo. Soon after, one of the officers left Chris's house and went over to Linda's residence to speak with Claude. When they got there, they arrived and saw a white Chevrolet Monte Carlo in the driveway. That Chevrolet was examined, and on the passenger compartment of the vehicle revealed smears of blood on the steering wheel and driver's side headrests. Inside Linda's home, her son Claude had been passed out on the floor. He was heavily intoxicated. The officers noted some small specks of blood on his jeans. The ensuing investigation revealed a web of hazy recollections and contradictory tales. All parties, however, agreed on certain basic facts. The day before the incident, Chris, Lori, Claude, and Michelle partied together at Chris's house. The couples drank a significant amount of beer and liquor. They took Xanax throughout the evening, and upon waking up the next morning, Chris and Claude resumed drinking more beer. At some point, the couples, they did separate. Claude testified that he and Michelle went to eat lunch and ran some errands before coming back to Chris's house to continue partying. Claude claimed that upon returning to the house that afternoon, Chris and Lori invited them inside but had the devil in their eyes. Soon after returning to the Lowe house, Claude said that Lori began screaming from the bedroom. Claude overheard Chris and Lori discussing a missing wallet and prepared to leave with Michelle. Claude testified that before he could leave, Chris emerged from the back bedroom with a shotgun aimed at them. Chris and Lori accused Claude and Michelle of stealing his wallet, and according to Claude, threatened to kill them both if his property was not returned. Chris put the shotgun down, but he picked up his walking stick, which was about 6 feet long and made of thick wood. Claude testified that Chris struck Michelle on the top of her head with the stick, causing her to briefly lose consciousness and began to bleed out from her head. Michelle, she eventually convinced Lori and Chris to let her go to her car, the white Monte Carlo, and look for the wallet. Claude testified that as Michelle was looking through the car, Lori was sitting on top of her, at times hitting her head with her hand and telling her that Chris would kill her if she didn't find the wallet. Chris eventually made everyone go back inside the house, but he was continuing to hit Michelle as she exited the car. Claude, once they were in the house, was able to calm Chris down somewhat. They gave Michelle a dish rag in an attempt to stop her head from bleeding. Lori went to the bathroom to try and help clean Michelle's wound. Claude stayed in the kitchen, claimed that the beating continued shortly after they took Michelle back to the bathroom. He said he saw Lori hit Michelle again with the walking stick. Now, while Chris and Lori were beating Michelle, Claude ran out and made his way to his mother's home. Now, Chris's trial testimony presented a starkly different account of that day. He testified that when the couples separated after the first night of partying, that they had no plans to meet back up. He said that he and Lori drove in town to pick up more liquor and cigarettes. He claimed that he continued drinking on the drive home and blacked out during the drive. But he remembered walking in the front door of his house to discover Claude and Michelle running out of his master bedroom. Lori informed him that his wallet was missing, so he grabbed his shotgun, stepped outside, and fired 2 shots in the air. He then claimed to have blacked out again. Rousing briefly to see Michelle passed out in the road, bleeding, and Lori crying, only to black out again. He claimed that he finally regained consciousness when he was sitting handcuffed on his porch swing. After a search of Chris's home, investigators found numerous items covered in blood. They found the walking stick split in 2 pieces, a Jim Beam whiskey bottle, the shotgun, a dish rag, and a shirt. Blood tested on the clothing Lori and Chris were wearing matched back to Michelle. Michelle died from blunt force trauma to the head. Both Lori and Chris were charged with complicity to murder, first-degree unlawful imprisonment, and tampering with physical evidence. Now, for some reason, against the advice of counsel, Lori rejected a plea offer and she opted for a jury trial. On November 22nd, 2019, a 7-man, 5-woman jury convicted Lori of murder and unlawful imprisonment. She was sentenced to life in prison with the chance of parole. Chris was convicted on the same charges, but the jury also found him guilty of tampering with evidence. He was sentenced to life with parole and will become eligible for parole just a day before Lori. A mother of 9, grandmother of 2, maybe more by now, loved and missed by all she knew. Rest in peace, Michelle E. Rigney Marlo. A moment of silence.
The defense focused on presenting a setting where Jack David Smith was becoming increasingly irrational and threatening in the months leading up to the murders, while portraying Amanda Bowen as being someone more often than not incapacitated due to mental deficiencies and drug abuse.
He said, I can kill somebody and burn their house down and get by with it. I'm crazy.
That was the very day these deaths occurred.
Yeah.
And when he said that, your testimony that Amanda Bowen was passed out.
During closing arguments, however, the prosecution told jurors that it was Amanda Bowen who, in her own taped confession, said that she and Jack David Smith had been planning for weeks, and that it was Amanda Bowen herself who chose the target of Tina Goebel's residence for both robbery and murder.
Her statement that she and him said and talked for weeks about where to get a pill. And that night, prepared, donned their dark clothing, put their gloves on and wrapped them with tape, got their guns and their knives, and they went to her best friend's house.
With the question of guilt or innocence finally put to rest,
And a jury only deliberated for 45 minutes before returning a guilty verdict against Amanda Bowen. Her co-defendant, Jack David Smith, he pleaded guilty prior to Amanda going to trial.